This is the world's largest flight training center. About 20,000 pilot visits are made every single year. And within these walls, at any given time, up to 620 pilots could be training here. There are so many simulators. We're in Denver, Colorado at United's Flight Training Center. The building was originally constructed in 1968 as part of the Stapleton Airport complex. And today, it is nearly 700,000 square feet of training space. There's no one better to show us around than Airline Captain Melissa Ward.
Everybody thinks the magic happens in the airplane. The magic is here.
So we're really flying in this thing.
This is the best part of the day.
From college basketball championships to Air Force flight instructor and airline captain, this one is gonna be cool. It's time to go behind the wings. I've got a lot of questions for you, so I've been looking forward to this.
Hi, my name is Melissa Ward. I'm a captain for United Airlines. I fly the Airbus 319 and 320 models, soon the 321s. I'm also an evaluator here in the training center. So in these simulators that you see in the background, I do evaluations on all of our pilots here to make sure that they're safe when they fly with you.
Take me back to the beginning a bit, and growing up, what were some of the things you learned from your mom that set the stage for this incredible journey you've been on since then?
The most important thing I learned from my mom growing up is that I could do anything I wanted to. She tells me, and I don't remember, that when I was 4, we were driving by an airport one day, and I looked over and I said to her, "Hey Mom, can girls fly airplanes?" And of course my mom didn't hesitate. She said, "Absolutely, girls can do whatever they want." And so from being a very small child till now, I've always felt like I have no limits, that if I set my mind and work hard, I could do anything I want. She has also taught me, though, that because she became a doctor later on in her life, it's never too late to find your passion for whatever it is that you want to do. And so if you're doing something and it's not the job that you had always dreamed of, don't lose sight of your dreams, because they're always still attainable anytime, anywhere, as long as you work hard for it.
Tell me a bit about playing basketball at USC, the team dynamics, and how the heck did you not only win 1, but 2 championships?
So playing basketball on the USC women's basketball team, I like to say it's the closest thing I've ever gotten to flying without an airplane. It was so incredible because I actually walked onto that team. So I've considered myself to be the luckiest person on the planet, because I wasn't supposed to be playing on that team, and we won the national championship my freshman year. So the dynamic on that team was incredible. We had so many superstars. We had Cheryl Miller, of course, Cynthia Cooper, who actually didn't even start on that team, and she's a Hall of Fame basketball player right now. There was a lot of A-type personalities on that team, including all the people who didn't play a lot, like myself. And so I think that the atmosphere on that team was every day we compete. I think that's where I learned, one, that it doesn't matter whether you're first string or second string, you have to fight hard. But the other thing that it taught me is that winning is really fun. The perspective of always being the best, or at least striving to be the best.
What did it take to actually get in that seat flying the planes?
So my first introduction to flying was to go to flight school. And so, that's a year-long journey in the Air Force. And my first impression was, wow, there are like no women here, and there are not many black people here either. And so I felt a little singled out because of that. It was a little intimidating, but kind of using that experience at USC on the basketball team, I just said, this is something else for me to conquer. So I got into the airplane. I did things well, I did things not so well. And I realized that, every day you have to just try and get better. And every night you have to study to get better the next day. And so the big thing I learned going through flight training was that you had to do things in a certain order. And so it wasn't something you could just wing. You actually had to study and do it the way the book told you to do. So it was a great discipline to learn early so that it carries you through your entire flying career. At the end of pilot training, they rate you. And so you can either be rated as fighter, attack, reconnaissance, or you could be rated as tanker, transport. And so typically, only the top pilots in the class get that FAR rating, that fighter rating. And so I was one of the pilots to get that rating. But while all the other guys in my class were super excited because they just started thinking about all the fighters that they were going to fly, for me, it was kind of just almost an honorary ranking because women weren't allowed to fly fighter jets back then. An FAR rating back then really meant, hey, you're going to be able to stay here and teach everybody else how to fly so they can go fly fighters. My first job in the Air Force was to be a T-37 instructor pilot. So a T-37 had a nickname called the Tweet, and that's because it made a really loud, high-pitched noise. In fact, its nickname was a 5,000-pound dog whistle because it really was that annoying. But the responsibility of being an instructor when you're only 22, 23 years old is vast because you have people's dreams in your hands. I would bend over backwards to make sure that the pilots that I taught could be the best that they could be and make sure that they got through the program, because typically in an Air Force flight instruction program, 50% of the pilots don't make it through. And so I took it personally if my students didn't make it through. We did everything from just takeoff and landings to acrobatics. We did instrument flying. The T-37, it had one of the hardest cross checks, which is when you're trying to fly an airplane in weather and find the runway. You have to look at all your instruments, and the instruments were laid out in such a terrible way that you really had to work hard to do it well. The best part about being an instructor in the T-37 was that I learned to have a really great cross check, which helped me vastly as I progressed through my career and flying other aircraft, because if you can do instrument flying in T-37, you can do instrument flying in any airplane.
Being the first in something, did you ever feel an extra burden or pressure to be, better than everyone else?
So I've been fortunate to be the first a couple of times in my career. I was the first Black woman to be an instructor pilot in the Air Force, and I was also the first Black woman to be a captain for a commercial airline. And the burden that comes with that is incredible, because you're sitting there going, okay, don't mess this up, because then no one's going to believe anybody else could do it behind you. But the other burden, I think, is also don't be the last. So it's great to be the first. So yeah, you get your name on a piece of paper, but the truth is that if you're the one and only, that is not an achievement. It is really a failure. So for me, I wanted to make the road a little wider, maybe a little smoother for the people that would come behind me. One, they had a role model. They could see that, hey, if she can do it, I can do it. And the second one is so that it got to a point where maybe we wouldn't talk about it anymore because so many people were doing it.
As you're transitioning out of the Air Force, you're looking around at the commercial airlines and you pick United.
My first assignment at United Airlines was as a second officer on the DC-10. We no longer have the DC-10 and we no longer have second officers. But that person was the person that would handle the fuel and make sure that the temperature in the cabin was right. From there, the normal progression is to go to first officer, and you can do that on a smaller plane or on the same plane or even on a bigger airplane. And the job there is basically you get to fly just as much as the captain does, but you're really there to assist the captain in making decisions. And so, we call it a co-pilot, not because you're second class or anything, but because while you do make suggestions to the captain has to make that final decision. So the ultimate goal of most pilots' careers is to get into the left seat, which is where the captain flies. A great captain never makes a decision by themselves. They take all of the input that they can from their first officer, from their flight attendants, from all of the resources that are available when you fly, like your dispatchers, your air traffic controllers, sometimes even the medical staff that we have available, and our maintenance folks. You take all of that into consideration, and then you try and make the best decision that you can. And and while you have that, I like to call it veto power, really, it really does come down to a group decision.
I mean, we've been looking at these simulators all day. We've seen pilots walking in and out. They've been kind of moving around on their hydraulics. And I mean, this is the part I've been most looking forward to. Can we go inside and check it out?
Absolutely. Want to go fly?
Yes.
I'll teach you how to land.
Let's go. All right, so we've made it inside the Airbus A320, the aircraft you fly. What are we looking at here?
Okay, well, you're the first officer, so you're in the right seat. I'm the captain, I'm in the left seat. These control the engines running or not running, and they're up because we've got them running. And these are kind of like the gas pedal in your car. They're called thrust levers in an Airbus. And so this is what we will push up when we want to start taking off. Down here we have pedals. The rudder pedals are like your steering wheel in the car on the ground. And then your side stick here is your steering wheel in the air. So as we roll down the runway, we will just roll down with steering with our feet. And then we will use this to fly. And so it's pretty easy. If we pull back, the houses get smaller. And if we push forward, the houses get bigger, right? In front of us is our instrument display that tells us whether we're turning, whether we're climbing or descending. It also gives us our altitude and our airspeed. And this is our map. That's the GPS for us. It tells us which way we're supposed to turn and which line to follow. So if you just look around at all the different buttons, it gives you just an idea of how much training goes into one pilot, because they have to know what every button does before that they can go fly with passengers. And so that's part of the process of being in 28 days of training at the Flight Training Center. We have been cleared for takeoff, United 320, cleared for takeoff on runway 34 right. So you're going to push those up nice and slow, and you want to kind of keep looking outside. Shouldn't have to steer too much with your feet because the winds are calm. One more click. So right there, perfect. Awesome. And now you're just steering with your feet, so you can push a little bit on the left to go left. Excellent. And so, yep, there's 100 knots, and I'll let you know, I'm actually going to call those out. So V1, and then rotate. So now pull back on the stick, nice and smooth. Perfect, not too fast. All right, keep pulling back. Perfect, positive rate gear up. And you're doing it, you're flying. It's as easy as that. Now, one of the best things about being a pilot is this thing called autopilot. Now, the airplane is flying itself, and we can actually, at this time, just tell it what to do by moving these buttons up here. We'll fly around and land, and so you're going to be able to see the runway over here pretty soon. Now, the red button on your side stick is the button that we use to disconnect the autopilot. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to get on final, and then at some point in time, I'm going to have you go ahead and disconnect the autopilot so that you can actually try and fly this. All right, so now start looking at the end of the runway.
50.
Okay, now start pulling
40,
back, pull back,
30,
pull back.
20. Retard.
All right, hold that, freeze,
Retard.
freeze. You're pulling it up, push it forward just a little bit, tiny. All right, now pull back a little
20.
bit.
Retard.
Perfect. And on the ground. And that's pretty good, not bad for your first landing.
That was a lot of fun. Thank you for that.
Everybody thinks the magic happens in the airplane. That's not magic. The magic is here, where you can experience pretty much anything that can happen in an airplane. From an emergency where maybe an engine fails, to bad weather. If you work hard here, then flying the airplanes out in the real world is easier.
That was so cool, getting inside one of the simulators and actually getting to take off and land in one. Now, you've made it to the end of the video, so if you subscribed, thank you so much. And if you don't, just subscribe already. All right, I'm gonna go give that one more shot.